Mindshaper SLP fam. It is Rebecca here, and I'm just popping on real quick to give you a little intro to a really exciting interview that you are about to see with one of the families that has been participating in my buddy group program for about 3 years now. And I wanted to record this interview so that you could really hear from a parent themselves what it's like to be in the buddy group family from the inside perspective and from the parent perspective. Our summer program is enrolling. Right now, we start the week of July 7th and go through the week of August 25th. We have virtual classes available, but don't let that dissuade you from even considering it. And we're actually going to talk about in this interview the value of the virtual classes and why this particular family has felt like the virtual classes has been a better fit for them than the in-person classes. And actually, research shows that autistic individuals can oftentimes communicate better in a virtual setting because it lowers the social pressure of the situation a little bit by virtue of not being physically in front of that person and also being in a safe environment. It provides a little bit of that distance that can help set up the students to feel a little more comfortable and confident to try out their new communication skills so that they can build up that confidence and use it in a real life in-person setting later on. We're also going to talk about what it's like for her to be a parent going through the program and how she appreciates that we keep parents in the loop with our classes. You can hear this family's experience, where they were before they enrolled in the buddy group program, what were the things that had them looking for a social program, and why this particular family has felt like the virtual classes has been a better fit for them than the in-person classes. So go ahead, dive right into this video and hear from a parent herself. I hope you enjoy it, and leave a comment below and let me know what would you like to know about Buddy Group. Oh, and I almost forgot, if you're interested in joining Buddy Group, go to buddygrouprocks.com to get on a call with me and see if Buddy Group is the right fit for you. All right, now you can enjoy the interview. Hi, Stephanie. Thanks so much for joining me.
Hi, Rebecca. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so Stephanie is one of the moms from our buddy group program, and she's here to tell us a little bit about her experience both before and deciding to enroll in the program and now during the program. Your son, Mac, has been in our program for a few years now, right? Has it been 2 years?
I think it might be coming up on 3,
Oh,
actually.
wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So you have
Yeah.
a long period of time to reflect back upon.
Yes.
So if you can remember back 3 years ago before you joined Buddy Group, what were the factors that you were looking for in a social group, or had you looking for a social group in general?
So Mac had a lot of the year that we were looking into Buddy Group. He was dealing with a lot of health and mental health issues that sort of had him isolated the year prior. And we saw a lot of his social skills sort of declining. And we, thought I saw that there was the Buddy Club and that it was optional to be online. And I was like, this could be a good way to sort of get his like feet wet without putting a lot of pressure on him. And yeah, so that's when I reached out and we got him into the program.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for addressing the fact that he's in the virtual class. Because
Yeah.
this summer, we actually only have virtual classes. And I know some parents are a little bit hesitant to enroll their child in a virtual social group. They feel like they need the
Yeah.
in-person interaction. But to your point, it is exactly what some kids need because it does lower that social pressure just a little bit. It helps the students' nervous systems feel safer because they're in their home environment when they're logging on. Are there other aspects of the virtual platform that you appreciate or that Mac appreciates?
Yes. So I can speak to the fact that it definitely lowers the pressure. He even sort of uses that word that he feels pressure about participating in things. So I think he has a lot of anxiety and he has OCD. So getting him out of our house and into somewhere else and being on time is just added pressure and, I think anxiety for him. So this is perfect. He just gets home, goes through his regular routine. Like you said, he's in his own home and he logs on like right at 5 o'clock at the time of his buddy group. And, and it also makes it more independent, now that I'm saying this, like, he doesn't need me to be like, let's go, let's get your shoes. He's just kind of like, all right, it's 5, like, get
Mhm.
the computer, log on, I help him a little bit, but mostly he's like ready to go.
Yeah, yeah. And one of the things that I always say when I am promoting the program or talking about the program is how we really celebrate and welcome each of our students for exactly who they are. And part of that is I don't give Mac pressure for signing on late. Like it's come
Mm.
when you're able to, come when you're ready. If he needs to have his iPad going and he's referencing that as we're working, I don't give him pressure that he needs to put that away either. There are certain times where I'll use like a declarative statement saying, like, I'm noticing your friends are having a little bit of a hard time waiting for you to respond because your attention's on your iPad. And those sorts of strategies have been really helpful for him. And he
Mhm.
actually does respond really well to that too. And
Yeah.
so I just wanted to like make that point too. Like it's not just like lip service when I say we truly do accommodate what our
Yeah.
students need. That's very important to me that I try to facilitate an environment where all my students feel like they can just show up as who they are.
Well, I mean, just to add on to that is like, I was thinking about this prior to our conversation that was another thing that really made me feel like this was going to be a great fit because I think for my son, he's very sensitive to all that's going on around him and his environment. And one of the things we've learned over time is that he's very aware of like every setting he's in is basically you need to work on this. You're working for this. Even when he goes to his doctor's appointments, he's, being diagnosed or having other, health issues that are coming up. And it's like a lot of maybe not negative, but just a sense of like, I'm not, I always have to work on something. I always have to fix something. And so when I read about your group, I was like, you did state that, you're not trying to fix them, you're just trying to help them along and meet them where they're at. And so that was a key item for me because I felt like he's inundated with like, we need to fix this problem
Mhm.
about you. And I think he's been so overwhelmed by that it's just like having a little bit of freedom to sort of, kind of log on when he is able. And then, like you said, he has a hard time getting off his iPad at that time. And he does listen to you. It doesn't feel like pressure to him where he's got to do something, and I think you handle it really well because he can sort of get overwhelmed by all the rules of life and, just
Mhm.
so
Yeah.
it's been a really great fit.
Yeah, and also like letting him open up in his own time. Like I remember in the early days of him in the group, he wasn't really motivated to be super engaged. And then slowly over time, where I just didn't really pressure him all that much, I would more just make invitations for him to participate, whether it was even in the chat and he didn't even have to like speak. I do that for a lot of my students. But then over time, we would see his silliness come out and his
Yeah.
personality, and it was just so heartwarming to see. And then, him really truly making connections with the other students.
Yes.
It was really made my heart smile to see that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I do remember initially he was sort of like, I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing here, kind of just like unsure as he is with everything new for him. He's just, it's hard for him to start new things and he takes a long time, but, through persistence and, keeping up with the program, he actually is like, I hear him laughing in the group now and sharing like, you start your buddy club with, what's something new, or, what did you do over the weekend? And he's able to like talk for a bit and like really share what he's been doing. And then when you're playing games, I hear him laughing. He, when he's not in buddy group, he does mention his friends in the group, and every, you know, Monday is his group time. He's like, it's 5, I gotta, and he'll tell his van drivers, I have buddy club tonight, so
Oh,
he loves it.
oh, good. That makes me feel so happy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know one of the things that is very important to me with Buddy Group is to incorporate parent carryover as much as possible so that the students aren't just working on the skills with me 1 hour each week.
Hmm.
So I try my best periodically as we do new lessons and units to send that information over to the parents. How has that been helpful for you in terms of knowing what we're working on in class and also being able to carry the things we're working on over into real life?
I think it's great because, I feel like the curriculum is fun and more game-like that you have set up. And I think that, it's easy to like implement even if you're just having dinner together or, maybe in the car. It's just easy. You provide the framework, you send the email and it has all the information you need, and then you can just go through your day. Like it can be applied in any setting, really. So it's not like you have to set aside like this huge
Right.
time or, it's just kind of like in conversation. So,
Yeah, and of course there is option to do that, to carve out time and work a little more structured on the things that we're talking about in class. But yeah, I do try my best to give tips of how you can work it in because we're all busy.
mhm.
We're all busy. It's hard to carve out that extra practice time, and it's going to actually serve him better to bake it into what you're already
Yeah.
naturally doing anyway.
Yeah.
Sure, yeah. Have you tried other social groups in the past with him?
So we did do I think it was an art therapy group when he was younger.
Hmm.
And I think it was okay. Again, more, it was less structured and not so much of a curriculum that sort of builds on each lesson where you can make this progress. And, I also think it wasn't set up in the way that you have it, where, it was pretty accepting of like who you are, but I think you could kind of get lost in that setting if you're just sitting back and kind of like not really participating like my son tends to do, whereas you were able to pull out from him with like your declarative language and just like making observations. And, that really brought him in, like with your patience and understanding, it just brought him in. Whereas the art therapy was just kind of like he just laid low, didn't really participate, so.
Yeah.
I think he's come a long way in your program.
Oh, that's so nice to hear.
Yeah.
Well, on that note, what sorts of changes have you seen in him since he's started?
So honestly, like I think he's just more like when it comes to coming to your group, he's made a lot of progress. Like I said, he's really happy and excited to get on the call. He tells other people about it. I think that in our home, he's asking us more questions. Like he's more curious, more like before he wouldn't really say like, "Well, how was your day?" and what did you do while I was at school? So we're hearing more of that. We take a lot of walks, so we see a lot of neighbors, and I'm finding like he's having more conversations with them. I don't have to prompt as much, whereas before it was a lot of prompting, a lot of looking at me like, okay, you can answer for me. I also think he seems more confident in a lot of what he's doing, like, just out, just walking I just think he seems like more confident in himself too.
Oh, that's so great. I'm so happy to hear that. Yeah, a big part of it is teaching the how to interact, like how to initiate a conversation, how to keep it going, and then really practicing those skills over and over and over again with people that are familiar, people that feel comfortable to you, and also in many different situations. So one of the things that Mac loves the games. That's his favorite part, I would
Mm.
think.
Yeah.
And with the games, I very specifically, if it's a game that's not very social by nature, I'll very specifically team them up so that they have a partner that they're interacting with and they have to talk to each other to get on the same page as to how they want to interact with the game, whether it's what number do you want to pick, this is the answer I want. Oh, it's different than the answer you want. Now we're practicing negotiating skills, but it
Yeah.
all feels in a very like natural, fun context where I don't, it doesn't feel like, oh, now I'm working on my conversation. Now I'm working on my
Yeah.
social skills. It's like just doing it in a way that feels natural. So
Hmm.
I'm really happy to hear that you're seeing that carry over as a result.
Yeah. And actually, to add to what you're saying with the games, he's super competitive. He used to have issues with losing, and I find that he's doing better with understanding, like, it's okay to not win every round. It seems like he's matured in that way. And I think he is very, what's the word I want to say? I don't know, like self-centered a little. So he is learning that other people have different ideas and different ways of viewing things, which it's hard for me to teach that, but like you said, it's in context. So it's like making sense to him because he's talking to a peer, and it's not like me being like, hey, when you did this, I noticed, like that's you're not being flexible or whatever. But in your buddy club, it's more natural, like you said.
Yeah, yeah. So, and we're not, I don't specifically contrive like conflict between the students. That would be
Yeah.
fault, but sometimes it
Yeah.
comes up by virtue of them working on a team to like answer a trivia question. And let's say that he has an answer that he thinks it is, and the other students thinks it's a different answer. I'll say something like, "Oh, it sounds like you guys have a problem. I wonder how you're going to solve it." So I don't
Yeah.
always just jump in and tell them how to solve it because over time I also have taught them strategies like we could pick a number, we could do rock paper scissors.
Mhm.
Sometimes they're just like, "Okay, we'll go with your answer" when it's
Mhm.
thrown back to them like that. And I think it's those opportunities that have really flexed that muscle that you're talking about. And what I've
Yeah.
noticed too is he's become more able to accept when we have to end the game early because we've run
Mhm.
out of time. Whereas in the past, in earlier years when he was with me, it would have been harder for him to accept that we weren't able to complete the entire game. So it
Yes.
really does help with that flexibility and, developing that the desire to want the teammate to be able to have their opportunity and their choice to pick as well. And it all just happens very naturally.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Plus, we do also have lessons that address these sorts of things too, that talk about the how to navigate these situations as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we have covered a lot of my questions that I have written down here just by virtue of us like having a natural conversation here. So I guess we could just kind of wrap it all up with what would you say to other parents that are considering joining buddy group or who might be on the fence, not sure if the virtual platform is the right group for them or the right setting for them, or just not sure if buddy group is the right setting for them.
Well, I actually I just shared this yesterday. He sees a psychologist through Children's Hospital of Philadelphia, and we talk a little bit about different options for Mac as he's sort of in a transition age. And I had mentioned this group for her to share with her clients because there aren't many, I think at this age that are appropriate or work for your kids. And so I think for his age, he's 17. I think this is one of the few, that are appropriate for that age group. And, I think the other thing is you do a great job of keeping the groups to like a good amount of students. And I think you do a nice job of figuring out like who's going to work well together. I know he he has a bunch of boys in the group and they have some overlapping interests, and I think that their skill levels are all pretty well matched. So it's not like you have, some very verbal person with someone who's not so verbal. They all seem to be on the same level from what I can tell in the when I'm listening to the groups.
Mm.
And then I think, for certain kids, I think virtual is actually, and maybe for just autism in general or people on the spectrum, I think that like for my son being in person really puts a lot of anxiety on him.
Mhm.
Like I said, just even getting there is an issue. And then you have an unfamiliar place that you're in, and you have people sitting in front of you staring at you. Whereas here, like he's in his home, he's in his comfort zone, and he doesn't have to worry about like getting out of the house on time. And so he's more ready to participate and be like mentally available than had I rushed him out of the house and
Right.
got him to his group.
Yeah, absolutely. And when a brain is in that anxiety mode, they're not really open for connection. They're in a
Yeah.
self-regulation mode at that
Yeah.
point because whoever it is, feeling anxiety doesn't feel safe in their body, let alone the environment. And so when you can kind of eliminate that factor from the equation, then the part of the brain that is able to connect with other people is available, like you said, for learning. And also to your point, in terms of the age, we also have a progression of classes in terms of age. So as he gets older, he can just transition right into
Hmm.
the adult group
Yeah.
and still be around people that are similar age as him. And I
Yeah.
think the overlapping interest was a happy accident. Because
Oh, yeah.
yeah, I can't control what my students
Yeah.
are interested in, but you're right. The group he's in, they all vibe very similarly and
Hmm.
they have very similar interests. And yeah, they're a great group of kids and they are very loving towards each other and happy to interact with each other and also give each other the support that they need. Like, some
Yeah.
students take longer to respond than others, and we work on that and having them kind of tune in and understand like, oh, well, some people just need a little more time and we can give that person that time because he's our friend and that's what we do. And
Yeah.
so, and that's worked really well, especially
Yeah.
for this group. Yeah. Hmm.
I should also add, we did do a meetup where we
Yeah.
went bowling and we did it was at Arnold's in
Yeah.
Pennsylvania,
Yeah.
which was really fun. And I think Mac really had a good time. And he met someone from another group, I think, that he and my son both have type 1 diabetes. So they like bonded very quickly about that.
Yeah.
So you do provide opportunities to meet in person, and so that's also like kind of the best of both worlds. Like you can do that, and then you can go and do like a fun meetup that's more like a hangout. So,
Yeah. Yeah. And of course, as odds would have it, ours was the only lane that was asked to switch lanes in the middle of our
oh, I know. Yes.
so we had a real life opportunity to practice flexibility and coping.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. But yes, I do hope to be able to provide even more in-person gatherings that are separate from the actual class time because I
Hmm.
do think it's really cool for them to get to see each other in real life and like, oh,
Yeah.
you're a real life person.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also to help facilitate connections outside of class time as well, so that
Mhm.
because ultimately my goal is that I would love if my students that are in these classes are connecting so well with each other that they're talking to each other outside of
Yeah.
class time as well.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
whatever I can do to help facilitate that, I try to as well.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Stephanie, for
Yeah.
taking the
Thank
time
you.
to talk about your experience. I know it's going to be really helpful for a lot of parents to kind of get an insider's perspective as to what it's like to actually be a part of the program. And you've said your family's been a part of it for several years now, so I really appreciate your insight and your time.
Okay. Well, thank you. I appreciate all that you do for our kids.
Oh, thank you so much.